Hi everybody, welcome to this week's art stream. We're going to be drawing some classic Stormtroopers. Actually this... Hi, sorry, my cats are being loud. This particular scene that I'm going to be drawing today is from a fan film. Oh, hi Angela, good evening. This is from a fan film called Bucketheads. There's like a flyover shot with some X-Wings, that's the name of that shit. I don't know why I blanked for a moment. I'm so pro Empire, I forget what the rebel ships are called. What can I say? But anyway, as you know, I do have a predisposition to all things Empire. So when I got to see this film at Dragon Con, I was really, really excited and really wanted to draw something from it. So we're going to be doing like an extreme perspective shot today. I know normally I don't really work on line art so much on this, just because line art can be kind of like tedious, and like especially when you have something like this where it's like, you know, I'm trying to get the detail of this the detail of this midsection right, you know, and I'm trying to like count down to like the number of like buttons and everything, because this production is made with like the cooperation of the 501st. So they're a very particular organization when it comes to costuming, as it turns out. So, yeah, they are being extremely chaotic right now, is all I can say. Brundle was actually under my desk trying to chew some cables earlier, and so like I set him down outside from my desk, and he started play fighting with his older brother. And he's really big, so he makes a lot of noise. What can I say? So, yeah, like I said, this is going to be like kind of a fun one because we're doing like extreme perspective stuff. It's probably going to take like a little bit longer than my line art normally takes, just because of things like involving the perspective and the detail of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Yeah, I also chose like a very, very extreme perspective for this just because, like, I mean, I like the overhead shot. It's obviously like, it's something that stands out to like most people who watch it, I think. But I just kind of wanted to give it a flair and not do like a straight redraw of sorts. So, in order to do that, I thought this would be kind of a cool thing, especially because like the series is called Buckethead, so like kind of like the focus is on uh, like the helmet as far as like the name and everything goes. And honestly, like in the second episode, like this is from season 1, episode 1. The second episode kind of like dives into a little bit more like who's behind the buckets. But the first one, you know, we see a lot of time with them with their helmets on. I mean, I feel like that's kind of what it is about in general, is kind of, well, who are these vast anonymous soldiers, right? So I think that's kind of the point, or at least part of it. So yeah. I always like drawing belts and whatnot. They can be kind of a fun challenge because you have to get something that's like pretty parallel over a curve, which can sometimes be a little tricky. But as you can see, I usually break up my curved surfaces into like a couple of different angles. And then I just go back and kind of erase the tails once I'm done. That's a pro tip if you're drawing bald characters, which is kind of how I learned what I know. The other thing too is like, again, like trying to keep it in this perspective, which is a trickier one to do, but I felt like it would kind of like show a little bit more mastery. Like a lot of the stuff that I do is pretty simple, like busts and whatnot. So like it's fun to like really challenge myself with something that is both very detailed and kind of an extreme thing. Now, I'm not gonna lie, like I did not like truly make a perspective map on this when I was doing like my initial sketch and whatnot, but drawing perspective is like pretty straightforward with a little practice, and like your brain will oftentimes tell you if something doesn't look quite right. So like this belt almost looks like it's not quite at the right angle, but we're drawing digitally, so we can use kind of perspective tools. That's actually how I got the X-Wing shadow to sit where it sits now, because I initially kind of just drew the X-Wing like kind of flat to the ground, right? But it just didn't look quite right with where he was standing and everything. So I used like the perspective tools to kind of like alter, like, just like downwards and skewing it and whatnot, so that I can play with it until I get it kind of where I want. The main thing to keep in mind with using perspective tools is the more you distort something, the more detail that you're going to lose. You're going to get like something that's kind of like a little bit softer. But at the scale that I'm working at, that's not really something I'm super concerned with this piece. I kind of knew that was going to be a challenge, so I chose a brush that's like kind of a little bit rougher brush, and I definitely it definitely looks better at the sharp. So like, see how like taking that corner in a little bit really helps the belt like fit into the plane and everything. And when you're doing like extreme stuff like this, I like to use curves a lot of time. Like, we know that Stormtrooper armor is like pretty cylindrical, but if we give it like an extreme curve like this, then it gives like kind of a fisheye effect, which really helps sell that we're looking at something in perspective and not just like, why is his head so huge and his feet so tiny? That's one of the major things. Also, I mean, he does like roughly fit into like a vanishing point type deal. So if I were to like make a layer over this, like obviously it's not the vanishing point for like the whole piece, but it kind of is for him. It's like right in here somewhere. And if that's like feet flat on the ground, we're kind of doing like this deal. So you can see how like extreme it distorts it down by the feet, and it's like less distorted or bowed out up towards the shoulders. So that's kind of what's going on here. And honestly, like, we kind of have a third thing going on, if you can imagine like the Z axis like coming through like the top of his head down to the ground. Like, that is actually pretty much perfectly the Z axis right there. Like, starting, he's looking up at the Death Star being destroyed, but that line would pretty much skewer down his spine, right? It's a tricky thing to work in, and I'm not going to say that I get it, like, nail it every single time, but your brain will usually tell you when you're, like, a little bit off. Like, you can just tell that something's not quite in the right plane, and then you just have to redo it. Like I said, I'm not perfect by any means at it. But that's why the practice is always good. I actually had to, like, kind of redo his helmet a couple of times because, like, I kept... The face of the helmet kept being, like, right in the perspective, but, like, just the top of it, because their helmets are, like kind of domed and flat. Like, they're kind of, like, flat on the top and, like, domed kind of extreme off of the sides. And I just kept, like, it kept looking like it was, like, really, really domed upwards. So, like, that was kind of where I ran into quite a bit of trouble. This piece is taking me a little bit longer than my normal pieces. Like, again, normally I'm not drawing to, like, quite this level of accuracy where I'm, like, counting things and whatnot. Armor will always take longer for me. I'm just, not a person who draws tons of armor. I dabble, but I'm not doing, like, full medieval suits or anything crazy like that, so... Yeah, this side I feel pretty good about it being in plane. It's this side that's kind of a little off still, so just go ahead and adjust that. I'm going to take it in from the corner just a little bit more. And then the thing is too, like, once you get... I think honestly I also need to go out on that side. Once you get the general shape down, then you can kind of go in and add a little bit more to it. Like obviously their belts have details, like it's got like raised portions on it, and like it's kind of got like a flat top to it, and we have these circles and whatnot. But like the best thing to do is just go ahead and focus on getting the general shape right, and then we can like build those square, like those rectangular protrusions off of it, basically. So yeah, I'm like happier that that like looks more in perspective, especially that we're like looking at it from top down and everything. I still need to do like the midsection, the abdominal piece. But I wanted to go ahead and get the belt down because that kind of tells me how far I need to continue some of these lines down. Because like as you can see, not all of them kind of reach to where I need them to go just yet. Kind of need a little bit more like that. But now we can go ahead and erase some of these. I like to clean up as I go, just because if I don't, I have a tendency to accidentally leave things in. So I really don't want that. This is already like complicated enough to draw in the first place. The last thing that I need to do is like have to have a like a magnifying glass to go over it and find the mess ups, like where I accidentally overlapped and didn't go back and erase it. Okay. So we have by the way, these pictures are from the 501st Legion's A New Hope Hero Trooper. The reason I used A New Hope Hero Trooper is even though I do know, like I do know about the helmet change between A New Hope and Return of the Jedi, and how Empire Strikes Back kind of has a mix of both, probably. But I know that there was a helmet mold change, but in the fan film they use the A New Hope type helmets, and you see that a lot because I think the A New Hope helmets are like just more popular. They look like a little bit more like the classic look that's in our head, like the gray mouth parts. It's like a little bit wider around the rim and everything too. The eyes are a little bit wider set. The Empire Strikes Back Mold 1 is just like, it looks like just a little bit more taken in, basically. But I did, because this story takes place in at the end of, and I keep saying Empire Strikes Back, but it's Return of the Jedi. One of them abbreviates shorter, so I keep defaulting to that. I'm very sorry if there's any 501sters in here that are upset by my not. I'm really teaching myself this on the fly, to be honest. But after A New Hope, yeah, it does. It looks a little nicer. After A New Hope, the shoulder pauldrons like came up a little bit too, like they're worn a little bit higher. So I kind of emphasized that a little bit. So I'm kind of like blending elements. I think that most people in the 501st would choose like the A New Hope look because it's just more of what we think of in our head when we think of like the classic Stormtrooper. They do look really good, so I can see why they chose to use it for the fan film. So it looks like the first thing that I need to go ahead and do is there's like another box on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and make another layer, and I'm gonna move my reference layer like really, really close, so I can really see what's going on there. That's gonna help me out. So a lot of times I have my reference images on the screen that the chat and everything is on right now. But if I'm doing something like really intricate like this, a lot of times, like instead of looking back and forth, like I'll just go ahead and put it. I do not want to draw that in that layer. Wrong layer. I go ahead and move it down here so that I don't have to keep bobbing my head to look at it. So this plane is curved and should be kind of in the same plane as the belt, basically. I'm not gonna lie, like, I mean, I totally know how to do it, and I totally could put up a perspective grid and alter it to where it needs to be, and go through all of that trouble to make sure that these lines are completely perfectly in their plane, and set up rulers to make them completely straight. But I kind of like, I go for like kind of a comic book style look, and I kind of like having lines that are not like perfectly straight, because like it definitely like shows a little bit more of the like the handness behind him, if that is a word that I could use, like the handicraft, I guess, the feeling that, hey, this was something that was made by a real person, basically, not AI. Or, I mean, not that, there are obviously, like, this is why I never had the patience to do, like, buildings and whatnot. Like, obviously there are people who are incredibly skilled at doing, perspective drawings, and, like, it just takes a lot of patience with rulers and everything and guidelines that I just simply don't have that in me. So this is what we're going for, and if anything looks like too wonky or exaggerated, then I can always go back and fix them later. But a lot of times that just simply is not the case. Like, a lot of times it's close enough that it just kind of looks like an exaggerated reality, which is a lot of times what I'm going for, is that like kind of just a little bit exaggerated and cartoony look. It's not going to look like a photo real Stormtrooper. It'll be like pretty accurate, but some things will be just a little bit off. That's okay, because I don't want to be here for, like, I love this drawing and I love this series and everything, but I do not want to be here for like over a month making it. I'm in this one for several days now, though. You wouldn't necessarily know it, but I would say my average drawing takes me between 4 and 6 hours, and I probably have close to 9 in this right now, to be honest. Most of which is in the helmet. For this. Yeah, the helmet definitely took a lot more time than like some of like the pauldron and chest piece stuff is like, oh well, this is stuff that's familiar to me, so obviously I draw armored shapes quite a bit. I'm not really super happy with how those lines are right now. But there is something like kind of meditative about doing work like this. Yeah, if I just get one line that I really like, this is the beauty of drawing digitally right here. So I just copy that sucker, and oh, they are all in the same layer. Okay. Hold on. We gotta get a little bit more specific with this. We have these tools, they're here to help us. Another way to go about doing what I'm doing now is you can actually just draw straight lines across and then use some kind of warp tool as well. Thank you. I appreciate that. Like I said, I'm putting a lot of time into this one, so hopefully it pays off. Yeah, like once you get like a line or two that you're really happy with, you can just kind of duplicate them down. If ever you have to do something kind of like this. It's not a bad method for doing like POW on stripes or anything like that either, to be honest. I know that some of you here who might be interested in some of my other artwork that I do might have a vested interest in learning how I do POW on stripes. Ooh. I forgot that the belt was in the same layer. I'm just erasing part of the belt too. So. Did that. Which was not ideal. Okay, so let me hide our little 501st guys here. Take a look at that. And see, even though it's maybe not in like perfect perspective, like it's so far down enough that this would not. Yeah, it does. It does speed up the redundant parts. Yeah, exactly. Is that like this is not detracting from the plane that you're viewing this in. And if I wanted to sell it like a little bit better even, I can always do this. Okay. Selected. Alright, I'm going to take these lines very carefully. And then just ever so slightly go to edit, transform, mesh transformation. And I highly recommend like if you want to do this with your POW on lines, that is an absolutely acceptable thing for you to do. It will allow you to draw like pretty, like you could draw pretty flat lines over a POW on's face and then just use this tool to save you a lot of time in getting them to conform like over the shapes of the forehead and everything. That's honestly probably a little too much for what we're trying to do here. I'm just trying to give it like the slightest amount of bend without making them look like super uneven. Which is a delicate balance that we're doing here. But let's take a look at that, and we can always like compare it to what was there before. And you see that it just that little bit of bend makes it look a little bit more in perspective than it was before. So like I said, if you ever like want a quick way to draw like a character that has a dozen parallel lines down their face, like I can't think of anyone in particular. Certainly not someone I draw all the time. You can always do a bunch of flat lines and then just kind of use the mesh transformation tool to like get them over the skull. I would still recommend like doing the ones like kind of around the chin and everything by hand if you can. It's going to be less obvious that those aren't completely parallel to each other than the ones that are like actually on his forehead. Those are more obviously parallel to each other than these here, because these have a lot more shapes that they go over, whereas these are just kind of uniformly domed over the front. All right, bring back the troopers. I'm gonna have fun with this one, y'all, so I hope that is amenable. Okay, so it appears appears. This is raised. And then that is like a little dongle that like goes into the raised portion. If I'm looking at this right. So we have this box corresponds with this box here. This box corresponds with this box here. So it looks like there's even like another raised portion. These things are crazy detailed. Okay, so there's like another raised box. Part of my strat with getting pretty straight lines is just to like do it all in one motion of the wrist, but right now I am struggling hardcore because my computer's lagging very hard. Fun times. But, save your wrists, man. Don't ever put them at a weird angle. Just, if you need to rotate your, too many greeblies. Yeah, exactly. Too many greeblies. It looks great, but how am I supposed to pull this off? Come on now. And the thing is, like, I have the utmost respect for people who do, like, who draw, like, troopers and clone troopers and everything all the time, because, like, could you imagine doing this, especially costumers, too, like, that go to this level of detail? Hats off to y'all. I could not do this for every project. I will do it for this one because it's very important to me, but, yeah, I can't imagine doing this. Maybe I would get faster if I did it all the time. I don't know. I imagine that it, to some extent, just takes the time that it's going to take. Really. But they probably don't have to, like, if you're doing it all the time, I imagine you don't have to, like, look up reference images, and probably you find your own shorthand things, methods of doing drawings. Yeah. I was just adjusting the perspective on that a little bit. It felt a little out of perspective. Okay. Yeah. I definitely think so. I really like going back and looking at my, what layer that's in. I think it's in layer 10. I really like going back and looking at my Purge Trooper. Like, generally the stuff that I have invested the time in, I thought that it was worth it in the end, so. Not always. Like, you know, last week we were working on that piece that was like Jedi Fallen Order. I think that one probably would have been one where it maybe would not have necessarily paid off as strongly. I think this needs to move in a little bit to make room for this other little box that's right here. Just because I was, like, already blurring things. So, like, if I had put, like, could you imagine if I had put this level of detail into Cal and the Ninth Sister just to, like, blur it so you couldn't see any of it? I don't think that would have paid off. I actually think I kept saying, like, very repeatedly as I was drawing them, I'm like, okay, you just gotta trust the process. Like, I know it looks a little weird right now, but it's gonna look good once it's finished. And it did. Especially the Ninth Sister. Cal came out like just a touch exaggerated, but hey, like I said, I kind of enjoy doing that kind of style where his little bug eyes are like popping out of his head or whatever. But yeah, that would have been an instance where, like, doing this to this level. One, anytime you're doing something that is, like, in the background. So, like, obviously there's a lot of different tools that you can use to... Yeah, she's already exaggerated. There's a lot of different tools you can use to like make your backgrounds look further away. That's always like a big thing. Is that like when you're first starting out, there's always this tendency to um, want to draw everything as accurately as you see it. So like you know intuitively that there's like a tree in the background, right? So you want to like completely draw out the detail of that tree because like you're making the most accurate drawing possible. But like our eyes do lose resolution. I'll look at this TKs again because I think. A easy way to move things further back, like in your perspective in a drawing, because obviously a drawing is flat. It's not like actually viewing something in a 3D plane. One way to sell the illusion of depth is just to lose detail as you go back. There's other tricks too, like obviously like Gaussian blur is one that we use a lot in like digital drawing. Many people will use the Gaussian blur trick, and it definitely works. Like it just it depends on what you're doing. But another way to like very quickly achieve a similar effect is to just draw with less detail when things are further back. Just take a looser brush and go at it. Don't draw your line art. Like like honestly, when things start to get far enough back, you don't need to bother with line art, because you're already gonna lose that boldness when you blur it. So this is one where I'm like kind of having to play with it again because it's just ever so slightly out of perspective. Just enough to the point where I'm like, oh, it's not selling it. It's not selling it. That's better. KTKs, you're up. So I see it's 4 buttons. I almost need to like jot down the details from the thing and then quickly move it away because it's so hard to draw it in perspective when the like the flat version is directly behind it. I think the thing that's kind of out of whack is actually the top. Anywho, I hope you guys are having a good evening. Marshall, thank you for joining us again from the depths of hell, I mean work. I hope it is treating you kindly. Alright. I'm going to show you all the perspective warp because this is driving me nuts. Watch this, everyone. Edit. Transform. Perspective. Alright, it's going to put a box around it. And then look at that. I can just... Shoop. It's probably a little too extreme. Like, see how it... When you shrink it down, it like immediately changes the plane. And that's all it really needed. It's just that little tweak. And boom, now it looks like it's on there. That's awesome. Are you saying that's awesome to the perspective tool? I couldn't agree more if that's the case. Like, look at that. It, like, immediately shrank it down. Yeah, exactly. I love perspective tool. Like, a lot of times I'll sit there and I'll struggle and I'll try to get it by hand, and if I can't get it by hand, it's like, all right, time to whip out perspective tool. Actually, I'm gonna do like a very quick demonstration over here since this is kind of the focus of tonight. So, here's a circle. Yeah, a circle is our friend. Edit, transform, perspective. There is no object to transform. Did I somehow? Sometimes I can. Okay, accidentally back out of something. All right. We certainly have an object now. Oh boy. Oh, I think my computer's just very unhappy. Okay. We have an ellipse. We have an ellipse. Okay, perfect. There we go. All right. Here's our perspective tool demonstration. We want something to look closer to the ground. We adjust the bottom, but we can also adjust the sides, like so. And like, see, unlike like the mesh transformations, it will kind of adjust the whole thing as is. Like you can like this grid that it gives you is like so much easier for your brain to kind of work around. At least I find. Like you can clearly see like we're rotating, right? Like we have this like cylinder that's like hinging like this. Like it's just so much easier to work when you have like an actual rectangle around it. And it just looks like you're rotating that circle through those planes. I find it really fun. If you're like, here's the thing is that like, you know, obviously like my background is illustration and like doing things by hand. So like I always like I'm constantly trying to do the things the way that I was taught, right? And when you become a graphic designer, you just don't have time for that anymore. So you learn stuff like that to just like make your life a little bit easier. And you know what? It makes my life a whole lot easier. So, okay, we've got to add a little bit of depth to that one. And now see, this line is pretty close to this one, so it kind of gives me an idea of what I need to do as far as drawing the depth line on this little raised portion right here. But the good news for us is that we're almost like, yeah, that's pretty much the edge of the belt as far as I can tell. I can't tell if this is another raised line or not, so let's treat it as a as like a detail, and then we can always go back and uh-oh, cursor lagging. Uh-oh. Take a shot of water. Cursor lagging, it's always my reminder to save and drink water. Yeah. Stay hydrated. My water bottle's starting to taste a little funky. I think it needs a bath. It's a little stanky water. Then again, this is the water from the faucet at work and not from my wonderful, sweet, succulent at-home well water. So, all right, I think that's pretty much all of the detail that's like perceptible from that abdominal section. So, yay. Yeah. The belts are always interesting to me, just from like like a cinematography perspective, it's almost like you can tell that Stormtroopers were not really meant to be filmed from behind that much, because like you can see that their belt like changes texture from front to back. Like on the front, it's got like all those like raised ridges and everything, and then on the back, it's just like it almost like totally changes character, right? It's just like a strip with like a little bit of piping on the edge, and the piping is not even on the front side. And like again, the abdomen piece is like, you would think that it would go all the way around a Stormtrooper, but it doesn't. They have a separate what they call the buttocks, or like the backside piece. Yeah, they got the big square on their back, like way less detailed than what I just did, right? It's just like a big square with like a little circle on it. Perfect for holding lightsabers if you're an Inquisitor. But like just like the flatness of it, and like the whole back piece is just like one piece that attaches to the front of it. It's just really interesting to me that it's like it's almost like an entirely different character from the back, which is fun. Okay, so the pouches in front, I see that there's like a circle in the middle, and then there's 3 of these raised, like the raised portion. I guess I shouldn't call them pouches. The pouches are the things that are dangling down off of them, and we'll have to get those too. But there's a circle, and then 3 raised squares, and then another circle, and then it looks like it kind of basically goes to the character that it has on the back, where it's just like the raised ribbing. So let's go ahead, hide that. Now let's go ahead and make our circles. So this is like what I've decided is like the center, basically. Ugh. Circles, man. Easier said than done. Always. And while I'm at it, I'm actually going to go ahead and make them. You can never have too many layers. Unless your project is lagging as badly as mine is, and you're trying to make it a smaller file size. But this one I'm not really worried about file size so much. So, all right, so we've got the middle circle, and then we're gonna do like our outer edge circles. Oh, come on, cursor. You can. I believe in you. Come on. All right. The other one's not going to be visible. There's no way that would be visible, so I'm not going to worry about the other one. I am going to worry about these 2. And I'll add more character to them later. And the reason I don't use the circle tool for these is because the circle tool... I'm trying to figure out... this is the point of the square on the back. I'm sure it's some kind of, like, thing that it attaches to their respiratory, or maybe it holds like the computer. Like, well, that doesn't make sense because they can take off the helmet. Maybe it's a big tracker beacon. Big tracker beacon. Actually, they make really they make really good use of it in Bucketheads. Now, Angela, I know you've said you've seen Bucketheads, but like, was that like the 2018 film, or like the seasons 1 and 2, or the season 1 episodes 1 and 2 that came out kind of more recently? Because in Bucketheads, one of the Stormtroopers actually has like a droid. Okay, you've seen both. All right, yeah. So you've seen Crate then, the droid that fixes to her backpack. I think that's a fun little droid. I would also like to. I really foresee an art piece with that. That would be really, really neat. Okay, what I'm gonna go ahead and do, yeah, like I was saying, the reason that I don't use the circle tool for this part right here is that it just wouldn't keep the brush texture. And I do want it to have the brush texture. Again, it's the sort of thing that like sometimes you can get away with it. I have been known to do it quite a bit when when I get really frustrated with the Inquisitor's ear circles. I will use a circle tool in a pinch, but that's kind of like a smaller thing, like kind of on the side of his head. So like sometimes that's a little bit easier to manage when you're doing it like that. Merge selected layers. As opposed to like here where we have like a whole bunch of different elements, and I feel like if I had one element that clearly was a different brush stroke than everything around it, it would be a little bit more obvious. And it is really important to me right now to like really make sure I set up like exactly where I want these circles to be, right? Because that's no, she didn't die. The commander, oh, the one from the gal in the short film dies. But that's not the one who has Crate on her back. But I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah, it's important to me to set up these circles because it's kind of like what I'm going to be basing off where I put all of the rest of these rectangular protrusions from. So I really want to be happy with these, and so I don't have to like move everything around. Hey, I sometimes too am like, I mean, and also I've been watching them like a couple of times over the last week, so like it's really fresh in my mind. Whereas like if I had just watched it on Dragon Con, I don't know that I would be so quick with the recall on it. And you know what? I'm still not happy with the circle, so it's time for our friend the perspective warp tool again. Uh-oh. Somebody coughed. I heard a kitty cat cough. Just one cough, though. That's not that bad. Kittens can sometimes have like a little kitten funk. So it's something that I'm trying to be mindful of. But he has a vet appointment on Saturday anyway, so the vets can make sure he's all healthy then. Okay. So I think we said, now I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 boxes. Okay, it's 3 boxes between each circle. Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and do the left lines of all the boxes so that I can get them spaced how I want, first and foremost. Okay. For right this moment, I'm only focusing on like touching the belt. Oh yeah. He's been a little like, you know, there's like multiple signs before it's like, oh, full blown cold versus normal like kidney stuff. But yeah, he'll go to the vet on Saturday anyway for his vaccines and microchipping. So if it's just a little bug, we can get something for him then. Unless he gets, like, you know, worse, you know, obviously. But an occasional sneeze or cough, not that bad. Hi, Brundle. He's under my seat right now. Okay, so now I have, like, kind of... Let's see, this is, like, the left... I actually think I want to move this one just a little bit. Hi. He's attacking my leg. That's kind of rude, Brendel. I'm in the middle of something. Okay. I'm actually not sure how much of that back box is going to be visible. So I'm going to start with the bounds of this front box here. And then we'll probably have like just like the edge of one visible here. Okay, so now I'm going to take a step back and look at the perspective, and you can see now that like having these like perfectly parallel lines doesn't look like it's fitting in the plane that we want it to fit in. So we can go ahead and use our perspective tool. Pinch them in. I actually think that like kind of like distorted the shape a little bit too much, so I'm just gonna do it the manual way. Like that. Okay. Now for this one. And this is again why I'm such a huge fan of having a whole bunch of layers so that I don't have to worry about, you know, selecting something else and moving it around and whatnot. Okay. I actually think like this line is kind of almost okay. Let's see. Alright. Oh! He's squeaking. Hi! I love you. Alright, return his kitten moment. He begged to be picked up. Bite my brother's nose before. Yeah. He definitely, he's been, Marshall has woken up to him chewing his beard hairs. So, Brendel is not above the chaos. He did, like, he slept super sweetly under my chin for about an hour this morning. It was so sweet. He was, like, curled up, like, right here. Right underneath my chin. Now he's running around my desk, ready to cause unfathomable chaos. Yep, I hear you messing around with he picked up the Stormtrooper. Oh, sir. No concept of personal space, yes, but it was very sweet. He actually got the Stormtrooper, like, fully in his mouth and picked it up. I need that, thank you. It's so rude. He has moved on to causing chaos elsewhere. That looks a good distance away from that. I think that one I'm kind of happy with. I might move this one a little. Naturally, I would hit okay. It's not okay. Alright, that looks much better as far as like getting our little belt things in perspective. These boxes. Okay. So the next obvious thing to do is close them off. And these are like pretty much on the belt. They come off of it like ever so slightly. Time to play tilt-a-whirl. Actually, it should kind of be like that. Yeah. And the closer it is to the point of distortion, like the more curved it's going to look. But it should still, like, more or less match the curve of the belt. And again, if you're having trouble getting a particular curve, just turn your canvas. Advice, I'm so much better at saying than actually following. Yeah, this is where it gets a little odd, right? Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and erase like the extraneous lines. Everything that shoots above. I am going to keep it like right there to kind of show me where my corner is, because like these I'm going to have to like connect and pull back, so I'll keep those for right this second. Okay. All right. So now that I kind of have like a nice like plane for this raise to like come from, now I can like really extend that. Right? Like I've now extended the four corners. And now what I'm going to do is take the same shape that's below it, duplicate it, and pull it forward. And then we'll just raise it further off the belt. That's why it was good to like establish our plane first, right? So now we can go through. And this, just like everything else, will be like a whole bunch of merging and erasing and everything. I kind of, with stuff like this, like to erase it just a little bit at a time because I just never quite know what all I'm going to need to make sure my perspective and everything is right. Like, obviously, we can't see anything internal to the shape. So that all needs to go. And then this is just coming off the belt itself. So that can go. Alright, now we can draw the new line here. So it was like ever so slightly off from the surface of the belt. And this is also a good way to handle like all of those like very tedious buttons and everything like that. But like, look at how like once we like established the plane that everything was going to be in, the box like already looks really in perspective. So like that was a case where like we didn't have to use the perspective tool. We just kind of thought through it ourselves. Once we got the baseline set up and looking right, you know, we were pretty good to go there. So if anything, they look kind of a little bit more square, and like on the belt itself, they look a little bit more up and down. But I'll allow myself that little lapse. And let's go ahead. We are getting a lot of layers here. Let's go ahead and merge these down. My cursor is lagging. Thank you, love. I appreciate it. Yeah, like I said, I was really nervous about doing this one. I really did want to work on this. Like, this project is taking me a really long time, so like this was definitely the thing that I wanted to focus and work on tonight. I didn't know how exciting it would be to watch, but now you can see why this drawing takes me like way more time than a lot of my other stuff, because it's just this level of detail is it's just a lot. And getting everything in perspective. Honestly, if we were just drawing like little lines on the belt, but you were looking at it straight on, it would not be nearly this complicated. Honestly, I feel like of these that I've done so far, this is like possibly one of the most technical ones that I've done. Okay, obviously we're not really gonna see that corner, but we still need to kind of extend them out anyway. That one's a wee bit off. Okay. Alright, here goes. I really also, sometimes like the timing of it just doesn't quite work out so much, but I would very, very much like to do a rendering tutorial because I feel like that's kind of almost where it's where my drawings come to life, and I think that it might be like a really interesting topic for folks to watch because I'm kind of known for like my like glowing effects and everything like that. I think so. I think it would be cool to kind of teach other people like what I do and stuff. It's just like so funny to me, just the timing almost never quite pans out for doing that um, stage of a drawing. Like I'm almost always working on that stage of a drawing on the weekend. And I don't generally stream on weekends because both of us are home, and sometimes it is nice to kind of just like do this without having to like obviously I enjoy talking to all of you fine folks and everything, but like sometimes it is nice to just kind of put my head down and focus on doing it instead of like worrying about talking through it or something along those lines. Sometimes I like to listen to music when I draw, and I can't really do that while I'm streaming, so um, I do really like doing this, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't do it, but it just so happens to work out a lot of times that I'm working on the rendering part on my weekend when I don't really want to be talking. I just kind of want to be drawing. So at some point, I'm sure I will get around to doing a rendering tutorial. It is. It used to be the part of a drawing that I loathed the most because I felt like I was constantly ruining my drawings in the rendering phase. Like I thought my line art and my flats looked like so good, and then like whenever I would try to shade it, that would be when things like went like muddy and haywire. And like also like rendering takes a really long time when you're just starting out with it. So like it took like way, way, way more time than doing the entire rest of the drawing, except for the line art. I mean, line art. Whoa, my brush went like totally crazy. Line art, obviously, like to me, that takes the absolute most amount of time. But now I've kind of got my rendering down to a point where I'm like really comfortable doing it. I just practiced it enough that um, I got to the point where I can be pretty happy with my rendering phase within like an hour or two, uh, which is a nice place to be. Is not always the case. Come on, brush. I know this is a lot of brain power for you, laptop, but like I really need you to keep it together. And it really does not want to keep it together for me. I don't know if y'all can like see on my end because you can't see like the pen movement and how far after the thing lags, but it's getting pretty laggy. Come on. Oh boy. Is this our sign that we need to build a desktop computer, Marshall? One that can kind of handle this? I don't know. It might be a sign. Add it to the list. Yeah, for real, for real. I don't think. See, the fact that I have a functioning laptop means that we don't need a computer yet. When one of our computers like totally kicks it, then we can. That's the trouble we got in with the car, right? We were like, oh yeah, we're fine. Like we don't need a new car. It would be nice to have, but we don't need a new car. And then like my car was like, huh, jokes. Now you need a new car. Marvin was really like, well, what if I stopped working? Would you need a new car then? Would it be cool if I just stopped? Because I can make that happen for you. Same with the well pump. Like, I mean, come on now. We are like totally on borrowed time with both our upstairs air conditioning unit and um, the hot water heater. Both of those very important things are definitely on their last leg. But hey, I mean, who needs an upstairs air conditioning unit when it's about to be wintertime, right? Oh my gosh. I'm not gonna manifest this. I promise I don't believe in such things. The way that we manifested the car breaking down was that I got a new tattoo. It's like, yeah, we've got a little bit of comfortable spending money. What if I got this thing that I really wanted for a long time? Like a fancy new tattoo. Perfect. Extraneous purchases. That's just what we need. Only then will it break down. Extraneous purchases like a trip to Disney World, am I right? I'm very excited. I keep I'm also very like nervous because it's like it doesn't feel like it's actually real until you're there. Like it just seems like a thing that like rich people do that people like us don't can't afford to ever do, And so like I see like Disney food blog and whatnot, and I go, well, that will never be me because I can never afford to do this thing. But then it's like it's actually happening, so it kind of feels completely unreal. Hmm. I did the thing I wasn't really supposed to do where I kind of erased some of those guidelines, but I think that's about right. This one's really tough because, like, technically this one is almost like it should be like coming almost directly at our faces. I'm just gonna angle it that way just a touch. No, stop. It'll be like, you know what? I've been so good. I deserve to buy this legacy lightsaber hill. I don't know. I won't feel this way after I take Brendel to the vet on Saturday to get his microchip and everything done. Oh, nope, that's not him. That's just the bar under my desk. He was the other day when I was sitting here drawing. I think Oh no, it was actually yesterday when I was recording the Ahsoka show talk. He was asleep under my feet, and like I kind of like moved my chair, and I like accidentally kicked him, but he still didn't wake up. I was like, oh god. But he was. It was a very gentle nudge. I'm obviously not like whipping out from my desk chair or anything like that. I'm still like, oh goodness, what's down there? The cat. He's actually gotten awful quiet. I'm sure he's sacked out somewhere. Oh boy. Oh boy. Keep it together. Keep it together. Yeah, this one's going to be interesting. Perspective wise. It's like, see how this line was kind of like swooping outwards towards us? But I think I'm going to go with the computer's calculation and not my brain's calculation on that one. I think I got most of it from this layer. Oh, here it goes again. I actually have bucket heads on this screen right here because it is another like way for me to go through and like look at like the armor from all different angles and everything, and actually crates on my screen over here. It's like, oh, look at that thing that I was talking about 5 minutes ago. Right here, right now. Probably a little more than 5 minutes ago. Time really flies when I'm working on this, to be honest. That's like the thing about drawing is like it's just so blissful to like really get in the zone with it. If you can get to that point. I mean, sometimes, I'm just doing it just to do it. And like to check a box basically is like, well, I'm not going to progress in this drawing unless I go ahead and keep drawing it. And like getting through like a tedious part or whatever. And like sometimes, you're only drawing for like a couple of minutes. You're not really having time to like fully unwind about it. But in this case, we've been at this for like an hour and 20 minutes now, so that's definitely enough time to kind of like get in the right headspace. Writing to file. Yeah, exactly. But that's not necessarily like the most like totally efficient thing, right? Because like if you only wait until you have a 2 hour block, it's very easy to not do the thing at all, which is the thing that I've really had to learn about writing. It's like if I just wait until I have time to sit down and write, the writing's just not going to get done. Now for you, it's a little different because you need like a full setup to do. He makes models. Also, Marshall, if you don't mind me pointing this out, but you did just get diagnosed with ADHD. So, that might be part of it. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It depends on if you're building or painting. Very true. What I did was like I was like sliding one of these down because this block kind of just looked like it was a little bit too close to this one and a little further from this one. So I just kind of am nudging it in that space. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I mean, I think it rings true no matter what. Not that I'm like the most neurotypical person to ever exist, far from it, but um I definitely think it's not helping you. That's for sure. It's not helping you focus on task for a short period of time. But yeah, I learned like once I started like writing on my lunch break and stuff and just like 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 I get into work and there's like like 10 minutes before I actually have to go and clock in or whatever, and like sometimes I'll just read the last paragraph that I wrote and like write down like a couple of sentences, right? And then like that puts me in the right frame of mind for when I actually go to work on writing again. Like it just keeps the story kind of going in my head all the time if I can like constantly, like every time I have an idle moment, just bring it back up and like jot down a sentence or two. Then it gets me like really excited to like actually for the time I actually get to sit down and do it. But like not everything is like that. Obviously I can't just take my drawing everywhere with me and work on it. So I kind of sit at work all day thinking about how much I want to be home doing this, and then I get home and then I'm like, I don't have the energy to do this. But I was thinking about doing it all day and I wanted to do it all day and I couldn't. And writing is totally different because I can basically do that almost at any time. Not quite. Obviously I can't be on my phone all the time at work, but I can go to the bathroom and while I'm sitting there, a couple lines. That's how Ride or Die was written. I don't know exactly. I think it was like what 160,000 words basically, and then Flyer Falls 80,000 words. Yeah, the only way that gets done is if I just write a sentence or two here, sentence or two there. I actually, even though I haven't updated a chapter in a long time, like I've been writing on it as recently as like yesterday. Actually, I don't think I've jotted anything down today, but I was definitely working on it on my lunch break yesterday. For sure, for sure. It was. Since this one's barely visible, I'm just gonna go ahead and like block that one as well. You legitimately thought of oh gosh. That would be an achievement. I forgot that you even did you get a new one? Or I guess you just ordered it online. Because I don't think we picked one up at Alabama Comic Con, did we? I'm not interrogating you, by the way. I have a Grand Inquisitor statue showing up tomorrow, so this is not by any means an interrogation. Just curiosity. If you got a new one. You went to the model shop a few weeks ago. Okay. I missed that. Again, not a problem. Which is funny. So I'm like, hang on. I thought you assembled the other one. Man, do we see now why I just love armor so much? It's so fun, guys. I did see like a very interesting argument about AI art actually that was their argument was that artists don't actually enjoy the act of making the art itself, uh, and that's why it's okay to have a. I'm not defending this position, by the way. I do not care for AI art. I'm terrified for what it means for my career. Yada yada yada. I don't. I'm not for it. But their argument was that well, artists don't actually enjoy the act of drawing because if they did, they would be like uh, doing the brush strokes like all the time, even when they weren't drawing. Which I think is funny because um, one is a not neurotypical person. I'm constantly doing things with my hands, like picking up my fingernails and everything, and it would honestly probably be very adaptive for me if I was doing brush strokes, uh, even when I was not drawing. So that was a funny aspect of that argument to me. But then also, like, it's about the satisfaction of having the thing done, which is something that this person online just could not grasp. Is that like, well, yeah, just because like the physical act of doing it is not the most fun thing in the world, doesn't like the enjoyment comes from like the accomplishment of having done the thing, and like the actual act itself, while tedious, is also meditative. So like it just didn't make any sense. It's really funny. Yeah, one of the most smooth brain takes on AI. They're like, well, artists don't actually enjoy doing the thing, so it's okay to it's like, what? Excuse me? It's the pride and accomplishment of having done the thing and having honed your skills to the point where the thing that you're doing matches the image that you have in your brain, right? That's part of it, is like honing your skill and like uh getting lost in the tediousness of it is like that's why art therapy is a thing, is because when you're busy like doing this, you're not thinking about your life problems unless you're talking about on air how your vet bill this weekend is going to be expensive. I don't know. But no, seriously, like, I mean, that's kind of why you do the thing, is to get away from your problems. And the only way that you can mentally escape them is to have your hands and brain busy making the thing. That's why it's particularly insidious when, like, I actually saw today, like, or I guess it was yesterday, that an author who writes fic that I really I don't necessarily read their fics because it's not really my thing, but I'm definitely familiar with them, and they've definitely like been influential for the fandom and done a lot for the fandom. And they were just talking about how depressed they were and like how they haven't created anything. And I think that like those types of things hit creative people particularly hard because the creation is the escape from the depression, but then also the depression eats away at like the energy and motivation to do the very thing that you like to do to escape from it. Is so insidious. So um, yeah, I just wanted to like give my comments to that person. It's just like, hey, it just seems to hit us the hardest, but I hope it gets better for you soon. My pen is just not cooperating. There we go. I really don't think it's the tablet itself that has the issue. I think it's like because this only happens when I'm streaming, I think that the streaming is just really demanding on my processor, basically. It actually tells me like at the bottom of oh, okay, the stream froze for you. Yeah. Entirely possible. I actually on I use Open Broadcast Studio software, I don't know, OBS, to do my stream and look at the chat at the same time, and then I can like watch and see what you guys see as well. And I can manage like the audio import, like, you know, all of that good stuff. And it actually tells me at the bottom of the screen like what my CPU usage is and what frames per second I'm getting for y'all in the stream. So I can see now it's currently at 30 frames per second, but it can like fluctuate up or down. Like just a second ago, like now I'm at CPU usage of about 9%, and just a bit ago it had jumped all the way up to like 25% CPU usage. But also like to, you know, I have a video pulled up on this screen. Like the thing about the drawings that I'm doing is that I really need like reference images, so I need to have Google Chrome up, and Chrome uses so much power, just so much. Or I guess, well, yes, power, but also CPU usage. I don't know. I'm not like totally hip with all of that lingo. It's been a while since I was in like the computer game, but in the computer game, just like Tron. I hope that inhuman noise was very fun for y'all to hear. It made me thirsty though. All right. Look at that. We have a belt. And it looks in perspective. Look at that. We did that. We did all of the belt things without having to use the perspective tool. But again, it's always there for you if you need it. Group chat's popping off. Yeah, other than the fact that he's legless. I'm just like, I'm so I will be so glad to get to the legs though, because like the armor on the legs is so much less. It's like nowhere near as complex as all of this, so I'll be very happy to get there. Let's look at our boys in white again. So I can see that this like circle thing is kind of like on a raised square. And it's a little bit out of proportion too, but hey, what can you do? Sometimes it just might happen. A lot of times when I'm drawing squares, I think you guys probably noticed this when I was doing those boxes just now, but I like to do like the vertical lines a lot of times, and then just kind of vertical first, then horizontal, and then I just erase the excess. And it can get you a pretty good box pretty quickly, like that. And you can see what I mean about, oh boy, when you use perspective tools. Oh, no, that doesn't need to come off. When you use perspective tools, the lines can get really distorted because you can see how like blurry that circle is compared to the square that I just drew it in. But like, again, when you're looking at something from here, are you really going to notice that? No. No, you won't. You won't, because I told you not to. Usually you can move things up or down without that happening, but the second you start like rotating things or doing like the perspective warp tools, that's probably going to happen. Alright, I think there was some like random spotting, but I'll clean that up later. This corner could use a little work. Alright, so that one's in a box. I'll just go ahead and assume this one's supposed to be in a box too. And this is one thing that I've learned from, like, I install graphics on vehicles a lot, is that, like, if things are out of plane from each other, you want to match it to, like, the closest, most obvious line. So, like, obviously, this circle is, like, and this box are, like, a little bit out of perspective from the boxes that are around it, but the vertical lines are fairly close to being close to the boxes, and the horizontal lines are close to being the top and the bottom of the belt. So if you use like the most prominent lines in each direction, you'll usually come up with something that's passable. We run into that a lot with vehicles, because vehicles like have curving body lines on them. So like even if you have a decal that is completely level to the ground, it can, like, depending on how curved the body line is on a vehicle, it can give the illusion that we put the graphic on crooked. So what we do is, like, unless a body line is like obviously like steeply at an angle, a lot of like car body lines like close to the windows are like a really gentle slope, and like the whole car itself will be kind of tilted towards, like, the shape of it will be kind of like this, where it's like tilted towards the driver's side, right? So we like follow that body line, and it like gives the illusion that it's perfectly level, even though the decals themselves are like on like a little bit of a tilt. That's just how it's done. How we do it in the biz. Not to toot my own horn, but I am getting kind of good at putting graphics on vehicles, so. I've yet to do a full wrap. We have a second guy who does full wraps, but I would love to get there one day. Okay. Now, we have this this extra pouch, but I think what I want to do before I tackle those little like hanging down pouches, and they do have them here on screen, I see, but I think I want to go ahead and put on like the cod piece and these other lines, because they're going to get erased a little bit by that, and I just want to be able to like see them super strongly. It's interesting too that the thigh pieces and the boots are not like the same, like they're asymmetrical, which I think is interesting. These boots are going to have us doing the same thing that we were doing up here. Like, oh lordy, here we go again. New layer. This one for the codpiece. So the codpiece is kind of a this is gonna sound weird. I mean, it's a key component, not just because it's protecting the Stormtrooper's junk, obviously, but we are now like really starting to establish like the sharpest parts of our angled perspective downward. So like when it came to like the arms, it was like this, like the pauldron almost could, like you could almost like see that as being like a pretty straight on plane. But then when you have like the bicep piece and this little, I guess it's a van brace, yeah. Um, like when you see like that stuff going down, like that's kind of almost like where the perspective is happening, even though like it's a little bit in the pauldron, and it's like the chest piece almost looks more or less like what we would expect it to look like. There's not a ton of distortion on it. Um, Now we're like really starting to pinch in. So like the cod piece obviously being in a V shape itself, that makes it easier to sell that illusion if we get that going for us. So I'm gonna move these boys. Oh boy, wrong layer. Oh, hi Brendel. Did you hear my sound of distress? Beep. I don't know if you guys can hear him. Probably not over the sound of the fans of my laptop, but he's staring at me from the floor, squeaking. Hi, Brendel. Why don't you go into the microphone and give them a little kitty ASMR, huh? I hope y'all can hear that. He's pretty close. He's pretty close to the mic now. Thank you. Yes, he is adorable. That's why I have to interrupt. You know what? It's probably good for my wrists and hands and posture and everything to take a break every once in a while and pet this cute cat. Bless you. Oh boy, you are getting sneezy. Yes, you are, sir. Oh, hello. Whoa! Oh boy, he tried to step on the screen and slipped. It was. I mean, how can you not? I'm gonna try to give you some. There you go. Kitten ASMR. Who could have seen that coming? Hi, buddy. Sorry if any of you watching have a fear of cats. This is Brendel. He's a troublemaker, but I promise he's not gonna hurt you. Okay, Brendel. Oh, bless you. You got a snotty nose. I bet the vet's gonna put you on some meds. You got a snotty nose, sir. Is that why you want to be cuddled? Huh? I couldn't tell if the codpiece had activated him. Had like a raised ridge on it, but it looks like it probably does. Yes, Brendel, kill him. He's an imposter. He's an imposter. Okay, that's enough. Who could have foreseen this coming, am I right? But guess what? It's actually Kanan. So he can sense that he's not a true Imperial at heart. And that's why he keeps biting his foot and trying to pull him away from me. You're a good boy, Brendel. Please go back down. Thank you. Okay. That was your serotonin dose for the day. You're welcome. I accept Patreon and okay. Let's go erase some of these. He's long. He is he's training up them boys on Arcanus and giving the promising ones to the Grand Inquisitor. And then the imposters, he's sniffing them out for termination. Let's hope for Zare's sake that he doesn't find them all. You know, it's funny, like, obviously, I've been a Rebels fan for a long time, but, like, it had been, like, a while since I, like, sat down and watched the show, and, like, you know, you keep seeing characters' names written down, long after, you're done watching the show or whatever, and, like, I forgot that Zare's name was Zare. I thought it was Zare. And so, like, in my head, I've been pronouncing it Zare Leonis for years. And then to, like, actually watch the episode again, and then they're like, oh, yeah, Zare. And I'm like, pardon? I was like, Zare. No, his name is Zare. You think with the wrong accent. This has been happening for years. My brain blipped on the pronunciation of that name. So, you know, Zare, yeah. It sounds like a very Star Wars name. Zare Leonis. But no, it's there. Remember how I said like how I was gonna be like so excited to move past the belt because it would just go so much faster after we did that, and yeah, look at that. That looks pretty good. Um, Pretty much first go. The only thing that I really need to do is kind of add the like the raised detail. It's funny when your brain like retcons information like that. I'm not sure. Yeah, yeah. I still think that Clee Pastera is like definitely like the worst example of uh me just like having absolutely no idea how a name is spelled, and like quite honestly it was so off that like I just kept trying to Google, like, because I wanted like to be able to use him in my book, and so well, fan fiction. I just kept trying to Google his name like close enough to get it to pull up the Wikipedia article about him, because like his Wikipedia article is really not linked to any of, like, not even like on the Wandering Star page or anything. And so like I really wanted to use this character, but I couldn't figure out how it was spelled. So like I asked Morgan actually, because I know she has like a PDF version of Last Shot, and I was listening to the audiobook. So I Google. I'm like, okay, can you tell me the name of this Powan gangster? I think it's Klee, like Klee, or maybe Clee, and then like I forgot how I spelled Pastera, but it definitely wasn't. It starts with pasta, so his Klee is CLI, which I never would have guessed that was Klee. I would have said Kli, because you know it's one, it's one letter off. Uh, but there's no way I would have been like, oh yeah, that's pronounced Klee. And it's like the Pastera starts with pasta. Like his name, it reads like pasta YRA, like, and that's supposed to be Pastera. And like I was spelling it totally differently to the point where nothing online could point me in the right direction for the name of this character. And even Morgan struggled to find it because she was just using the search function, or yeah, she no they anyway, they were like struggling to use like the search function to find it because like I was not even close with the spelling. I'm like, look, I know he's in the chapter that happens on Katanika. Can you look on the Katanika chapter and see if you can find him? And that's when we finally figured out how Cleopatra was spelled. Okay. That's pretty good. I think that I'm actually not gonna have like the sometimes on depending on how sharp a contour is, I will sometimes decide to like do like an implied line for depth, or sometimes I will draw an explicit line for depth, and sometimes I will just do it in the shading phase. And this is one that I think it looks like a little too much like that, and I think I'm just going to do it in the shading phase. Like, I think that there's enough like implied depth there that I don't really need to add that extra line there. Names being throwing throwing pasta on a wall, if you will, like Mr. Pastafarian, as I like to call him. We're throwing pasta at walls. Seeing what sticks. I try to put slightly more thought into my Star Wars names than that. Like actually come up with conventions. I do think Gristo Fratak is possibly one of the best Glupshido Star Wars names created. So it's not like he couldn't come up with good names. He certainly could. For certain. Okay, I need the boys to go away for a minute. And Faizan Gore is also like kind of a fantastic name in my opinion. Like, come on, it's a doctor named Gore, and he becomes a mad scientist. Come on, that's good. It's pulpy and I love it. Feisencourt is a yeah. It really is, folks. This one's a tough one. Again, an armor piece that is super straightforward from head on, but then when you're looking down at it, it's like way less straightforward. This is one where our curving... Oh, see you soon, Marshall. Good night. He'll be here in like 20 minutes. No. This is one where like the curving lines are really going to help us a lot. Oop. I'm erasing the good line. I hate it when I do that. The one downside to the strategy of like going ahead and like drawing all of those crisscrossing lines at once, that sometimes you will accidentally erase the wrong line. When I have a lot of them to do, I have a safe drive. By the way, when I have a lot of them to do, like I'll come up close to like where it's actually supposed to be, and I'll just erase the part that like touches the line. So like when I'm doing like cityscapes with like a whole bunch of lines and stuff, and they're like it's really difficult to tell which one is the right one, I'll just come through and like I'll just erase, like I'll basically do like that and that on either side so that I know which ones to actually go back and fully erase later. And then it's like it's easier to go back and fully erase them because like you have a gap that separates them, so you don't have to like worry about getting like too close and accidentally erasing part of the lines that you really wanted to. You can just go through like very heavy-handedly with the big eraser and get rid of all of them. So that is a strat to use sometimes when it gets a little bit more complicated. Making sure that I am still in fact erasing the correct line. Yay. Yeah, I'm glad I went ahead and drew this thigh piece because like I'm gonna use like because this is kind of just like an awkward space where everything is kind of shrinking down, and I can use that little like pouch thing that's hanging off to kind of hide where those lines might get kind of a little awkward, or make him look like he's like, you don't want him to look like his spine is like curved and like his like he's doing like the tail tuck thing that like dogs do. You certainly don't want that. So like sometimes if you can like, because it's just a thing about drawing things in perspective, or like honestly just drawing things head on sometimes, is like sometimes even if you're drawing something like accurately, your lines can cross in awkward ways that like create illusions that you don't really want. So you can fudge it, is what I'm saying. Like it happens a lot of times when you're like when you're doing like a still life, for example, and like you have like too many lines that like intersect at the same point. Like if you just have like a whole bunch of objects stacked right, and it just ends up that like all of their corners kind of come together like right here, and it creates like a really, really dark spot somewhere that's away from the focal point of the piece, what you want it to focus on. It is permissible to adjust things in your drawing, even if it's not accurate to real life, so that you don't have those awkward focus points. Like, if your creases come together in a weird place, just don't draw one of them, or, like, make the book look like it's shifted back 2 inches so that it doesn't do that. Like, you don't have to do that in every situation. I certainly have things that are, like, awkward crossing points where a lot of things meet. Because, again, like, when I'm doing stuff like this that's, like, super detailed, like, you're just not going to be able to fit all of the lines that you need to fit into an area without some of them kind of being at an awkward intersect with each other. It's just not going to happen. So like look at this area right here, right? This area on the chin. There's a lot of like intersect lines happening, but overall there's so much detail that is really not detracting overall from the piece. I can't believe I've been working at this. Like, again, my normal drawing takes me like about 6 hours to go from like sketch to finished thing. Like 4 to 6 hours. That entire Marin piece that I did only took me 4 hours. We've been going for 2 hours tonight, and all I've done is like flesh out a little bit of the abdomen details and like the belt and everything. Like that just goes to show you like how difficult of a piece this is to line. But I'm really happy with the perspective illusion that we have going on right now. I think it looks really good, and not just like, oh, why is he weirdly getting, why are his hands weirdly small? So like it does truly pay off. And if like I couldn't do every piece like this, I would drive myself insane by only putting out an art piece like once every several months or something like that. But every once in a while you get something that's just worth it to do, just to prove to yourself that you can make a super detailed piece. And I really want to use this. Yeah, thank you. I do really want to use this as a portfolio piece, because I feel like my portfolio is like not super diverse, because a lot of times I am like truly working on pieces that are pretty quick turnarounds. Like a lot of times when I get commissioned for a piece that's only going to be like a 3-4 hour piece, right? Because I mean, I charge by the hour, so something like this would be like prohibitively expensive for someone, whereas like a bust is not going to be. So I end up doing a lot of work that's kind of in that vein, and not a lot of super technical stuff like this. This is just a very technical drawing, and there's no way around that. But I really like my goal for the year, and I don't think I'm gonna make it this year, but I'm still hopeful, and some of that is just on me. But my goal for the year was to be in a zine, like a Star Wars fanzine, and I don't think that that's gonna happen, just because there were two that I was really interested in, and one of them I did not get accepted into, and then the other one, it just didn't end up coming to fruition. I guess it kind of died in like mod applications. It basically died at that stage, as far as I know. Like they never announced mods or anything, so that one ended up not coming together. And like some of the other projects, I just knew like I'm not the best fit for this, or this is not something I'm interested in doing. Like I don't think I'm gonna be a good fit for a Cody one zine. I keep calling them zines, but it's zine. I know it's zine because it's short for magazine, but it looks like zine. I just know that I'm not going to be a good fit for that, because I mostly draw like Imperial characters, right? So not to say that I have anything against it. And like if somebody asked me to do it for like, you know, whenever I open requests or like do commissions or anything, like if somebody asked me for that, it's not like I'd be like, no, I don't want to do that. It's just like, you know, there's going to be people who are known for that artwork who are just a better fit for it, right? And it's just not something that, like, you know, we say it on the Ahsoka show all the time, but we're not, like, huge shippers. Like, it's just not something that we're interested in, really, so I don't do a lot of shipped art. I mean, I will absolutely do it for other people. I don't have problems with it or anything like that, but it's just not what interests me. So I wouldn't be a good fit for that zine, and I just know that. So that's all. Sometimes it really does have to be like, you know, if I really felt so strongly about that, like making that goal, I could have probably applied for more things that were maybe not my first choice of project, but I didn't do that. I tried to keep it like, hey, let's only apply for things that we're actually like really interested in doing, which makes the rejection even harder. But hey, I mean, eventually I'll find the right project, even if it doesn't happen this year. Eventually I will find that perfect zine to be a part of, I'm sure. I was really, really bummed. The one that I was really looking forward to was called Sith City, and they were focusing on dark side characters and like very specifically in like the Q&A and like the about and everything. They were like, hey, we want like not just like their traditional Sith characters, like we want to explore more about characters like Ventress and the Inquisitors and everything. And I'm like, oh my god, this is the perfect, this is gonna be it, this is gonna be the perfect one for me. And then they never announced the mods for it, and they were supposed to announce them like back in June, so I assumed that one's kind of dead in the water. And I'm like, no, no, that was the one I really wanted. Oh gosh, I guess I just better learn moderation so I can do it myself. Um, Honestly, I'm starting to get practice. Not that I think I'm ready to like fully like lay out a zine, but I'm getting a lot of practice with InDesign at work because that's the program that we use to make all of like our like professional proofs before we send them to our customers and everything. Um, and that's the software like that most people use to like put together like big booklets and things like that as well. It's a very useful publishing tool, so people like to use it for that. So I'm getting a lot of practice with it. So it's I don't think I'm ready to moderate a zine just yet, but I'm just saying that like one day I might be at that point, and then we can make our own Lido incidents of Big Brother bullying. He's normally very good at playing with the baby, and then also Brendel's just kind of he's kind of like our other cat Apollo in that he's just kind of like loud. So like even when he's playing and having a good time, like he'll still sound like he's being brutally killed, but then he's clearly like his body language is good play body language, and he's like clearly like happy because he keeps engaging and he keeps playing and everything, but like he's making noises like he's being like beaten, and it's just not true. It's just Lito's he's got his claws retracted and he's like playing with him or whatever, and then like Brendel's like hissing and snarling and everything, but like it's like you're fine, buddy, like you can walk away at any time. He's not going to pursue you. If shit sucks, hit the bricks, man. You don't have to continue doing this. I just think that he's just a loud, dispositioned cat, I guess. So I kind of had get rid of this for just a second. I can see in my sketch that I kind of had his knee terminating like a little bit higher up. But I think where I have it now is not like inappropriate. I kind of actually thought about changing the angle of his legs, and kind of instead of, please stop. Now he's playing with the cord to my fan. And kind of putting his legs like further apart, and kind of like a little bit more. Let's see. We'll just play with it just for a second. In more of like almost like a power stance, right? Like having his leg like a little bit more like right there instead of behind him. I actually kind of like that. Let me, because like obviously in the shot, in like the flyover shot, they're running, which is why I kind of had like his leg like behind him instead of like stationed under him. But if he's like looking up at the X-wing, um, he can be like more planted. And I kind of like that a little better, I think. Like the body language is just a little stronger. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with that actually. Last minute change here, but you know, no Brindle. So cruel and unfair. I do not let you shock yourself to death by eating the fan cord. Absolutely brutal of me, truthfully. Save him from harm. Brendel, you make me feel like a parent. Yep. Bite me. At least it's an activity that I can do one-handed, so, you know. I can tell that you're calming down, Brundle, because you're not, like, wiggling to get away at any free moment. Like, you know when kittens have, like, just, like, so much energy that, like, you literally cannot hold them still, right? He definitely gets into that mode. Quite often. Like, you cannot contain me. But, he's chilling out now. Yay. Oh man, it's past my bedtime. I mean, not really past it. It's just, like normally I go to sleep at 10:30, and it's already 10:15, which, you know, to actually like go from stopping this stream to like actually getting into bed and everything would take me like probably half an hour to do. But I'm just really into what I'm doing now. Remember what I said about like even though this is like so tedious, there is something like really really meditative about it. Here we go. It is super meditative and I'm having fun. Hanging out with all of you lovely people too. I'm doing the box plane thing again that we did for the belt, but now for the knee boxes. This is where I really need to sell that like extreme downward angle. Like we're really, really pinching inwards now. And we should be looking like pretty much like directly at the top of the boxes. Sorry, little man. I breathed too hard on his head. He did not appreciate that. Okay. Exactly. Again, that person who was arguing for AI art was just a moron. I don't know what else to say about it. Hey. I put him down and he immediately started chewing on the power cord again, in typical kitten fashion. Come on. Once I put the base down on these boxes, I probably really should go to bed. Notice my language here. Probably really should. Not definitely going to, but, you know, probably really should. Oh gosh, oh gosh. If, I mean, the thing is that that will only work if my thing of my art program actually allows me to go to bed, and if it keeps doing things like this, then I'm just never going to finish these knee pouches. So yeah. I'm not actually like totally sure what's going on here. It's almost like I like started to draw the 3D aspect of the box. I wasn't ready for that yet. I think these I can probably, like, because it's only 3 of them, I can probably logic through the perspective without having to, like, totally duplicate the box. That is my fatal reckoning, I'm sure, but we'll try it. It's just lagging so badly. I think this is not so bad so far, but it will be interesting when we back out and actually look at it, how I feel about it then. Okay. I meant to have the eraser, not the pen tool. Okay. Now, Alright, boys, let's see it. That's pretty good. It does look like just about a top down of that little knee pouch thing. That's like at this point getting so far away from our eyes that it's like so teeny tiny. You know what too? I haven't put my signature on this piece yet. I should probably do that. A lot of times I do it in the sketch phase just so that you know, I don't want anybody to like steal my art, especially in the sketch phase where it's still like, well, someone could just take this and put it in their own drawing program and like draw the lines over it, right? And like create a total piece that they like claim is their own. That's why I like to do it so early on, because I don't want people to steal even my sketches. But hey, that's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna leave it there tonight. We made good progress today, and I'm hoping that as we get more, yeah, exactly. So, both of his legs are kind of like not totally connected just yet because I have to draw in the bodysuit underneath. So like even like the other one is like underneath the crotch piece. That one's not connected either. Very funny. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that, and hopefully the other pieces, as they get smaller and like the perspective gets a little bit less wonky, like it'll be more of a straight down view, so it's a little bit less of this managing the in between. Um, I hope that that will go a little faster, and that maybe next time we can be coloring and shading this thing and working on the background, because as you can see it's going to have like a fairly not like too like it'll be a little simple background because I don't want to take away from all of the hard work that I've put into this, but you know, it'll be like an appropriate background. I'll say that appropriate level of detail. So thank you for joining me once again, everybody. This time I put my contact information on the screen. So hopefully you'll have that there. And then also I do stream about the Ahsoka series on Wednesdays. And I try to do my art stream every Thursday, now at 8 Central Time instead of 7 p.m. Central Time. So it's an hour later than it was before, to kind of give me a little bit more time to get ready after I get home from work to be here. So thank you for joining me. Have a great night, everyone. See you next time. Good night, Angela. Oh god, I can't find the curve. There we go.